And we are back. Francis, I know you. So we have this situation where there's talk of reconciliation and all of these things, and that would presuppose that there were some kind of personal differences, whatever those were. But in politics, it typically tends to be about interests that are diametrically opposed at any given time, and so we agree to disagree because you want this and I want this. So unless they come to a point where they now want the same thing, it's going to be quite an uphill task, because many people will say right now what the two gentlemen want is not exactly one and the same thing. Interests, yes, but also a bit of ego. Because, I mean, there's that ego part of it. Who will be seen to have reached out to the other? We've been told that religious leaders are trying to broker a truce. We are yet to see how far that will go. But more importantly, I looked at the prayer meeting on that, is it Moide or Huduma Day? I almost said Huduma Number Day. It's Huduma Day. Yeah, Bado number. Yeah. That day. And I was very interested in the exit clip. I don't know whether you watched the exit clip.
When he was leaving.
The president, after a short while after saying, kama kuna mtu nimemkosea, anisamehe. Na kama kuna mtu amenikosea, anisamehe. You see, every time you condition the forgiveness and apology, then there's a problem. Kama, especially the use of the word kama. Kama kuna mtu. Then it tells you something. I would have thought immediately after that statement, the president would have gone and done an namaste to the deputy president and vice versa. But I didn't see that. Actually, the soundbite and the video were totally opposite.
Were diametrically opposed.
That one, interests again. But now that there's a cabinet retreat at Savo tomorrow, I'm told quite a number of CSs are already there. I would imagine that you will see a lot of attempts to show that what you guys are talking about is not necessarily what is. You will see a lot of tea taking together, maybe juice taking together, a lot of those images that show that, you know, tuko pamoja. But also to try and ease the tension and anxiety in the country. When you hear that the international community is concerned, the religious leaders are concerned, maybe this retreat will offer an opportunity to send a message that it is not as bad probably as you guys talk about. But now, how sustainable is that show, that picture? Because shortly after, we are told there will be a meeting on Saturday, and thereafter discussions about BBI. The two leaders have already made their positions almost clear on where they stand on this. You remember during Madaraka Day, the president told us he has discerned a constitutional movement. The deputy president today is saying that they want to bring a prime minister and two deputies, but we want to change the narrative. Yeah. Tell them So those are very opposite points of discussion. So while there may be an attempt to show, you know, togetherness tomorrow during the retreat, but also thereafter, that may be negated by what will be happening. Lastly, that the cabinet is divided is not a secret anymore. There are factions. And when you see cabinet secretaries talking outrightly to the deputy president, and you also remember last Thursday we were told that the cabinet meeting was a little stormy, then it tells you something. And if the cabinet ministers can not take on the deputy president, call him a clerk and so on and so forth, it tells you how the situation is back home. It tells you that it's a divided house. Maybe this retreat will also offer an opportunity to, you know, bring the factions together, try and broker a truce even within the cabinet. But the question is how sustainable then that will be moving forward, because politics, the political temperatures are not lowering, they are actually rising. And so as they rise, so will the factions widen and the cracks widen. And Yvonne, that is interesting, because the president has never quite said he has a problem with his deputy. His deputy has never quite said he has a problem with the president. They keep doing things that suggest they have a problem with each other, but they never quite come out clearly. So the show that we are talking about and all of these things, to what avail now that BBI
is about to come, that report, I mean, there's every indication, including the appointment of...
right.
That means
I mean,
the job is done.
The job is done. And for those who are wondering, Ambassador Kimani, who was Joint Secretary
with Paul
Mwangi, now being posted to be Kenya's permanent representative to New York. Of course, that is all pending parliamentary approval, vetting and approval. But there's that sense. Thanks, job well done. You can now be on your way. And if, like you're saying, there will be an attempt to show that all is well, or that there'll be an attempt at reconciliation. Again, to what end? Like you say, the divisions are open and very clear. And one of the ways to actually heal those divisions, for me, would not necessarily be a cabinet meeting, would perhaps be a meeting between the two antagonists in this story, and that is the president and the deputy himself, because it is as a result of that perceived rift between them that even the cabinet is split right down the middle, with those for and those against, those who feel like they can call the deputy president a clerk without their boss actually calling them out on it. And it's not because he cannot do it. We have seen the president openly chastising many of his cabinet members, in public. I mean, he did that with Mwangi Kiunjuri and a few others very openly. So the fact that he allows that to continue and doesn't, call them in to do that. And again, it's a country of window dressing and pretense and putting up a front, which is what it may seem to me that prayer meeting was. Look, prayers are important, and prayers, I guess sort of help to cool down the temperatures and give us a sense of focus. But when you hear unequivocal apologies like, if I offended you, then I am sorry, and also those apologies that are being made then should be made between the president and his deputy personally. And it's not, if I offended you, it's more like, this is what I did, and this is what you did. There has to be a total confession of the sins. Like, so what are you asking for forgiveness for? And that's the issue with what happens in this country. We had a writer, journalist, and Neiman fellow, Christine Mungai, on Daybreak, and she said something that I think resonated with many. She said, and I quote, "For me, I don't pray for our leaders anymore. My prayers have changed. I pray for the Kenyan people that we survive all this greed, mendacity, cruelty, and callousness." And that just sat with me for a while.
Because I would like us to move this a little bit further, because there's a third piece to this. There is the president and his deputy, but then there is also Raila Odinga, the former prime minister. Jamila asked whether it was before, after, or during the handshake that all this unraveled. And over the weekend, we saw a delegation actually go to Kango Kajaramogi from central Kenya in what was, in many respects, symbolic, and I'll start with Linus here, because they invoked very many historical moments in our country, including the relationship between Jaramogi and Kenyatta initially, during the struggle for independence and on the verge of independence, and the things that happened there. And that, to me, sounded like a very interesting development in the midst of all these noises that we're hearing.
Well, I would like to see through all that emotion that was attached to the visit to Bondo and the meeting in Bondo, and see it as politics, because politics is about interests. And for the first time in a long time, I think for the first time since 2002, we are having a convergence of the interests of Mount Kenya and the interests of the Lake region. That is what is happening. It was not some emotive thing about or meeting culturally or anything like that. For me, I see Bondo, what happened in Bondo, as a precursor or part of the ongoing conversation around BBI. Here are two teams that are planning something. BBI is their meeting point, and they are using culture, and including the visit to Bondo, as part of the process of building some form of relationship, because it's all about political interests. And remember, on the opposite side of those interests, there'll be the deputy president, who has made his position very clear on BBI. Is not for creation of, I think we have that soundbite.
Yeah, we need to take the break right now, and then we can come back with that soundbite.
Okay.